At some point in your life, you've probably heard of the 27 Club, the theory surrounding the untimely deaths of many influential artists, all at the age of 27. Icons like Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain, for example. But today, we're not diving into that theory. Instead, we're exploring a different one, perhaps inspired by the 27 Club. This theory suggests that some celebrities have faked their deaths to escape the overwhelming weight of fame, retreating to an isolated island to reclaim a normal life far from the spotlight. Let's dive into this fascinating conspiracy theory through a story inspired by it. I am the File Keeper, and welcome to another episode of the Conspiracy Files. I used to dream about the moment fame would envelop me. In my mind, it was a constant glow, an echo of applause that never ceased. I imagined interviews, autographs, the lights following me wherever I went. But no one told me about the darkness that comes with the light. Now, every step I take is followed, every whisper heard. I can't go out to buy bread without being approached by curious faces, phones pointed like weapons. Going to the park with my family has become impossible. They look at me as if I were an attraction, not a human being. Privacy, that precious refuge, has slipped through my fingers like sand. I sit in my studio, surrounded by works that no longer bring me joy. I remember how it was before fame, before cameras and flashes. Life was simple. I could walk the streets without fear, without feeling the weight of eyes following me. I wanted this so badly, to be recognized, acclaimed. And now that I have it, I realize how much it oppresses me. In a moment of despair, I talked to my manager. I poured out everything, the lack of freedom, the burden of fame, the longing for anonymity. He listened silently, his eyes slightly concerned, but said very little. Just an "I understand" and a pat on the shoulder before leaving. I thought nothing of it, just another forgotten conversation. But something strange happened. An envelope appeared under my door, a simple note. It was waiting for me. I stood up slowly, my heart beating a little faster, curiosity mixed with a hint of fear. I opened the envelope, and inside was just a card with a number written on it. Nothing more. The paper, white as snow, seemed to wait for my action. I wondered what it could be. A joke? An enigmatic message? Curiosity got the better of me, and without much thought I decided to call. The call connected, but no one spoke. I waited, listened. The silence on the other end was almost deafening. After a few minutes, the call dropped. It was strange, unsettling, but I was too exhausted to think. I decided to sleep. However, at 3 a.m, the phone rang, breaking the silence of the night. I answered, my voice still hoarse from sleep. On the other end, a calm voice asked, "What would you give to have your anonymity back? Would you be willing to leave your entire life behind and start anew in an isolated place?" I fell silent, reflecting. Anonymity, a luxury I had underestimated. Images of my life before fame began to flow. The freedom to go anywhere unnoticed, the simple pleasure of sitting in a cafe without stairs. But leaving everything? My career? My achievements? The voice on the other end pressed, "In 1 hour, I will call again. If you wish to accept the offer, simply answer the phone. We'll take care of the rest. If not, just don't answer." And then, silence. The clock seemed frozen. Each minute stretched endlessly as my mind filled with doubts and reflections. What did I truly want? Anonymity or my life as an artist? I stared at my phone, waiting for the call. Time dragged, and the dark screen reflected my anxious face. The agonizing wait only made me more anxious, but the call never came. Instead, the house phone rang. I froze. Was it the people with the offer? Or maybe a relative calling? Few people had my home number. The phone rang twice. Doubt consumed me. rang a third time. Was it a coincidence? Or were they really calling the house? Time was running out. It rang a fourth time. Each ring felt like a hammer pounding on my nerves. The fifth time. I took a deep breath and, with a trembling hand, picked up. Hello. Nothing. Just silence on the other end. After 3 seconds, the call dropped. I hung up, my heart pounding. Had I made the right decision? Was that really their call? I spent the rest of the night awake, my mind spinning with thoughts and possibilities. The clock read 6 in the morning when sleep finally overcame me. I woke up with a pounding headache, my body heavy, and my vision blurry. I could barely make out my surroundings. Slowly, my vision became clearer, revealing the luxurious interior of a private jet. I was lying on a comfortable seat, but the internal discomfort was undeniable. In front of me, my manager watched me intently. "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" he asked, his expression a mix of concern and unsettling calm. I tried to process the situation, but my mind was foggy. "Where am I?" was all I could manage to say, my voice hoarse and weak. "You're on your way to your new life," he replied with an enigmatic smile. Those words left me even more confused. Before I could ask more questions, exhaustion overcame me, and my eyes closed again. I fell asleep, convinced I had been drugged, but with no idea what was happening or where I was being taken. When I woke up, I was in a soft bed, in a hotel room that looked like it came straight out of a luxury catalogue. Soft light entered through the half-open curtains, and beside the bed was my manager, sitting patiently. "How are you now?" he asked again, the same calmness in his voice. I sat up slowly, feeling physically better, but still lost in confusion. "I'm better, but what's going on?" My voice trembled slightly, and I began to feel anxiety rising within me. "Where are we?" He took a deep breath, as if preparing for a long explanation. "We've arrived at the place where other artists like you, who couldn't handle the pressure of fame, decided to start over." "Other artists?" I asked, my voice hesitant. "Who else is here?" The manager crossed his arms, looking at me with a mix of understanding and caution. "That's a question I can't answer." "Why not?" "Because it's part of the rules. Anonymity here is absolute, but I can assure you, you'll recognize some of them. You might even be surprised to find idols you once thought were untouchable." I stared at him, trying to gauge if he was serious. The idea of sharing a space with other artists, people who had also succumbed to the weight of fame, left me both intrigued and unsettled. But then, a crushing realization hit me. "What about my family?" I asked urgently. "Did you inform them? Do they know I'm here? That I decided to step away from the spotlight?" The manager lowered his gaze for a moment before responding, his calm demeanor nearly unbearable. "They don't know." "What do you mean they don't know?" I stood from the bed, blood boiling. "They need to know where I am. This isn't something I can just keep hidden." He sighed, as though he was used to delivering bad news. "No one outside this island can know where you are. To the rest of the world, you passed away." A narrative was carefully constructed, a collapse due to substance abuse, a public tragedy, but a story no one will question. My knees almost gave out, and I sat back down on the edge of the bed, head in my hands. "You're telling me my family thinks I'm dead? That I abandoned them without explanation?" "It was the only way to ensure you could start over without being found," he replied, his voice firm but not unkind. "Fame is a heavy chain, and to break free from it, sacrifices must be made." The weight of his words hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind flooded with images of my wife and parents, of the pain they must be enduring, believing I was gone, that I'd left them so suddenly and tragically. "This can't be happening," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "I know it's hard," he continued. "Everyone here went through the same thing, but eventually, They understood that this is a second chance, an opportunity to find peace. I looked up at him, despair now replacing my fury. And what if I don't want this? What if I want to go back? He shook his head slowly. There's no going back, not after the decision is made. Trust me, you'll adapt. And maybe, one day, you'll thank us for this opportunity. The silence that followed was almost tangible. I felt trapped, powerless, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. My anonymity had been purchased at the highest possible cost, the life I had known. I got up and walked to the window, staring at the surreal landscape before me. The paradisiacal beauty of the island seemed to mock the chaos within me. How long will this last? I asked without turning around. Forever, he replied. This is your new beginning. What happens next is up to you. As the manager left, the door closing softly behind him, I remained by the window, gazing at the horizon. I had wished so deeply for freedom, but now that it was before me, I wasn't sure I could bear its weight. A sharp knock at the door broke through my thoughts. I paused briefly before making my way across the room. As I opened it, a flood of sunlight poured in, blinding me for a moment. My hand instinctively came up to shield my eyes, the warmth of the day brushing against my skin like an unfamiliar embrace. Finally, my eyes adjusted to the light, and I saw her. She was a brunette, nearing her 40s, with an aura of serenity and wisdom. I recognized her instantly, but I can't share her identity here in this account. It's part of the island's rules. Our identities can be known to each other, but must remain a secret to the outside world. She smiled at me, a smile that seemed to hold both understanding and melancholy. "Welcome," she said softly, as though she knew exactly what I was going through. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't alone. She guided me around the island, showing me every detail with a quiet pride. The place was simply paradisiacal. The beaches had sand as white as sugar, and the sea displayed shades of blue I had never seen before. Winding trails cut through dense green forests, where birdsong mingled with the distant sound of waves. As we walked, I saw other artists living their lives. Some were sitting on the porches of rustic houses, writing or painting. Others strolled along the trails, chatting cheerfully. What struck me most was seeing couples, pairings I never would have imagined in the outside world. It was as if, here on the island, all barriers had dissolved, allowing for connections unimaginable elsewhere. Unable to contain my curiosity, I asked her how the island was sustained. She was silent for a moment, her gaze lost on the horizon, before calmly answering. "It's thanks to the work of our lives," she said. "The songs, movies, books, everything we created while we were still out there. And after we chose to come here, there are still posthumous works, documentaries about our careers. All those creations continue to generate revenue." She paused, weighing her words, before continuing. "Moreover, we can still create here, if we want to. Many of the songs topping the charts or scripts captivating audiences might have been born on this island, but out there, no one will ever know. Our works are attributed to other artists, carefully chosen to preserve the anonymity we've adopted." Her explanation felt cold, yet there was a strange logic to it. She added, "The managers continue to handle our earnings. They use the money to keep this place running, and of course, to profit themselves. Here, though, no one deals with money. Everything we need is available, free, and accessible to everyone living on the island. It's a self-sustaining system." Her tone was neutral, almost resigned, as if this reality had long since become natural to her. But to me, the idea of living in a place where my identity and work belonged to anonymity was both intriguing and deeply unsettling. As we continued walking, a question arose in my mind, and I couldn't help but ask, "What about the outside world? Is it possible to get news about it?" She nodded slowly, as if expecting this question. "Yes, it's possible," she said. We have access to TV channels to stay informed, but the internet isn't allowed on the island for obvious reasons. Obvious reasons? I asked, intrigued. Someone might, in a moment of weakness, try to contact a relative or friend, she explained. That could expose the island's location. It's a risk we can't afford. Here, anonymity is absolute, and maintaining that security requires certain sacrifices. Her words weighed heavily on my mind. The idea of being completely disconnected from the digital world was, in a way, liberating, but also terrifying. The island was a refuge, yes, but also a luxurious voluntary prison. Over time, I began to adapt and integrate, forming new friendships. The shared experience of fame united us, making interactions easy and natural. Each of us brought stories of glory and hardship, creating a unique bond. Despite accepting the island as my new home and its residents as my new family, I could never overcome the absence of contact with my original family. Every day, I think about the pain I caused them and how it must have impacted their lives. Deep down, I know I was selfish, and if I could go back, I'd do things differently. There is, however, one activity that slightly eases this pain. The island hosts frequent gatherings. During these events, as the night progresses, some areas become quieter as people return to their homes. I use these moments to write accounts like this one, placing them inside bottles and casting them into the sea, hoping someone finds them and learns of this island's existence without revealing anyone's identity. If you're reading this, you've found my bottle, and now know that the artist you admired, who vanished from the world by choice, might still be alive, living on a paradise island with fellow peers. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe for more content, and if you have a favorite conspiracy theory, let us know. We might cover it in a future video. And always remember, this is just a theory. If you're hungry for more stories, check out one of our videos or explore a playlist for a deeper dive into our content. I'll see you in the next file.